So like during the 2016 election here in the United States, there was like a British spy who he put together like a dossier in which he claimed that basically Russia had a lot of dirt on Donald Trump, and one of the things that Russia had on him was that like apparently in 2013, well allegedly in 2013, Donald Trump went to Moscow and like Putin sent some prostitutes to Trump's hotel room and basically he was secretly videotaped having sex with the prostitutes and like allegedly like the prostitutes even urinated on him, which like Trump of course denies. But anyway, it's like a big joke here. You know, people make fun of Trump saying, "Oh, there's a PP tape of him." Do you know if Putin and Russia really have a PP tape of Donald Trump?
It's not like you are observing all your private channels of communication of your secret services, etc. It's correct that there are certain connection between those two individuals. However, there's obviously much more dirt on him from a certain other individual that since has been suicided, so to speak, right? On your very own country. So they have much more incriminating what you consider perhaps evidence on this your particular so-called president than anybody in Russia does.
Do you mean Jeffrey Epstein that was suicided?
Well, yes, that was the individual who was suicide. However, there were other individuals also in the presence of this person, which are much more powerful, much more similar position. However, they likely are now in possession of anything incriminating, not just on your so-called president, but also several other of your presidential candidates. Now, of course, such interactions between political arenas happen all the time. Of course, infiltration happens in politics, blackmail happens in politics. Yes, there's obviously meddling in politics of other countries, and yes, China and Russia are new players, obviously, from what you're perceiving. We don't care much about your inner human politics, right? We're only reptilian politics, but especially when it comes to players, not like we are supporting any party or any country, or those are interesting quarrels as far as we are concerned, like an anthill that's having their own quarrels going on for whatever reason we're observing from the outside. So therefore, we have no interest in those minute details, but obviously general concepts can perceive is what the United States and Europe has been doing for the longest time by meddling in other countries' affairs. It's now more to the extent that Russia and China are finally figuring out how to do this as well. Now, we're not referring to any particular event, but this is happening more often than not, but mainly in Africa and to some degree parts in Europe. It's just for the first time like the United States has this happening to themselves as well. Now, of course, it depends what you consider the United States, because it's really a united country. It comprises of many different cultures and peoples with their own interests that are fighting each other, and some are much more powerful than others, and those that are much more powerful likely, of course, have a much more greater say and possibility to manipulate certain events and also get dirt on other people. Obviously, the more richer people in your particular country have the most power by far, and not as you commonly like to refer to your peoples or the people's power, which is obviously nonsense. It's usually your so-called richer people that are in charge, and of course they also instigate against each other. This again obviously also happens occasionally internationally, like in this case. Now again, we're not referring to a particular tape in general, but there are at least numerous individuals that have something considering dirt on your so-called president, just like on different presidents of various countries, including the Western region, including other important European powers, including other important Asian powers, etc., and certainly North American powers. What other countries perhaps being so politically unimportant and corrupt that there is not being considered important enough for such blackmailing and bribing, or rather, it does happen there just more locally.
Okay, just now when you were mentioning like the president, the leader of Germany, like, did you mean there's dirt on the leader of Germany, or the leader of Germany has dirt on Donald Trump?
The former, not just the so-called leader of Germany. Again, we don't want to infringe on the West's own will, since it doesn't like us referring to its current country location with this term for its own reason. We don't care, but in general, perhaps more realistically, the leader of your so-called European Union currently, right? Now, obviously, European Union is not currently being ruled by this particular person. It's being ruled by European Bank, not by the European Senate, or whatever you wish to term it. Just like the United States is not run from Washington, D.C., it's run from the Wall Street. Obviously, it's no secret. It's not much different in other parts of your world, just more open, for example, Russia or China, and its own governmental structure. So the corruption there is more obvious. In the West is, of course, more aware of corruption somewhere else than among its own ranks, or I would just to admit rather to it happening somewhere else. But obviously, in a more perhaps communist system, it happens more along party lines, while in a more capitalist system, it happens more along monetary lines. But the content is the same. And blackmail, bribery, etc.
Okay, interesting.